It started with a sound I couldn't explain. A cry, thin, distant, and sharp enough to slice right through the wind. I was hiking through the edge of the old quarry trail, just outside Millersfield, trying to find the source of a wildlife distress call someone had left on our rescue hotline. It was late spring, warm enough for snakes, too early for tourist noise. And that cry didn't belong to a bird or any grown animal. I stopped dead in my tracks, holding my breath. There was again, weak, broken, almost like someone sobbing. I broke into a jog, pushing past the tall grass, the thickets clawing at my jacket. The trail was overgrown, barely visible now. I hadn't walked this side of the quarry in months. Then, ahead, an old sinkhole, jagged edges like a wound in the earth. I edged closer and looked in. That's when I saw it. Two enormous eyes, glowing golden in the dim light, stared back at me. A lynx kitten, small, filthy, and trembling, was crouched at the bottom of the pit. I couldn't breathe for a second. It wasn't just fear in its eyes. It was something else, like it had already given up. And then I saw the movement behind it. I squinted and my stomach turned. There were snakes. 3 of them at least. One coiled near the rocks. Another slithering just inches from the kitten's paw. Timber rattlers. Venomous. And fully awake. My heart slammed against my ribs. I backed up fast, almost slipping, and tore my backpack open. Rope. I needed rope. I had maybe 25 feet of it. Barely enough. I tied one end around a tree and threw the other into the pit. The lynx didn't move. I grabbed a long branch, snapped it in half, and took a deep breath. I had to go down there. The sides were loose and dusty. Every foothold crumbled as I lowered myself. When I reached the bottom, the snakes had already begun circling. One hissed and raised its head as if deciding whether I was worth the trouble. I didn't blink. I stepped forward, slow, steady, holding the stick out. I kept my eyes on the snakes, never turning my back, and edged toward the lynx. It was so small. Its fur was tangled, matted with mud. It didn't hiss, didn't run. It just stared at me like it was too tired to care. I knelt beside it, whispering, "Hey, little guy, I'm not here to hurt you." The snakes were closing in. My hands were sweating so bad, I nearly dropped the stick. I scooped the kitten into my arms. It flinched but didn't fight. Now, I turned, clutching it tight, and backed away. One of the snakes lunged, striking the air where my leg had been a second earlier. I scrambled up the rope, nearly losing my grip halfway. Dirt rained down into my eyes, but I didn't stop. I pulled myself up, the lynx cradled against my chest, until I hit the edge and rolled us both over onto the grass. I lay there, gasping. My arms were shaking. The kitten didn't move. Was it breathing? I sat up and looked at it closely. It blinked just once and let out the faintest mew. Then I saw it. 2 small puncture marks near its hind leg. My stomach dropped. No. I reached into my bag, grabbed my phone, and called emergency wildlife vet. My voice cracked as I gave him the location. It's a lynx cub, maybe 8 weeks old. Rattler bite. I'm bringing it in. I wrapped the little body in my hoodie and held it close. I didn't even know if it would make it through the drive. But I knew one thing. If I hadn't come when I did, it would have died alone in a pit full of snakes. And I couldn't let that happen. I drove like a maniac. Every pothole felt like it was going to tear the car in half. But I didn't care. The lynx kitten lay wrapped in my hoodie on the passenger seat, barely moving. Its breathing was shallow, eyes half-lidded, and that bite mark on its leg had already begun to swell. "Stay with me, buddy. Just hold on." I glanced at the time. 10:23 p.m. The wildlife vet I'd called, Dr. Harris, was an hour away on a good day. I'd never make it in time. I grabbed my phone and hit redial. He picked up on the first ring. "Where are you now?" "I'm on Route 39, heading east." He's going downhill fast. "Okay, listen. Pull over as soon as you can. You need to slow the spread. Do you have a tourniquet?" "I don't." "What else?" "Use anything. A belt, shoelace. Tighten it above the bite. Not too tight, just enough to slow the blood flow. You're buying time." I pulled over near an old gas station, jumped out, ripped off my belt, and wrapped it around the kitten's thigh. My hands were shaking. Is he seizing? No, but he's barely responsive. Do you have any Benadryl or antihistamine? Glove box. Yes. Human dose. Split the tablet. Crush a quarter of it into water. Use a dropper or clean cloth to get it into his mouth. I did what he said. The kitten didn't resist, didn't even flinch. It was like holding a sack of bones. Keep him warm. Stay calm. I'll meet you halfway. I'm heading west from the clinic now. I looked down at the little bundle on my seat. His fur was damp with sweat. Or maybe that was mine. The next 40 minutes were a blur of speeding headlights and muttered prayers. Please, please don't die on me. When I spotted Dr. Harris's headlights at the roadside turnout, I slammed the brakes and ran out, the kitten in my arms. He was already outside, gloves on, flashlight in hand. We laid the cub on a thick towel on his tailgate. The vet examined the leg, then checked the pupils. Still reactive. That's something. You said rattlesnake? Timber rattler. I saw them with my own eyes. He pulled out a kit, prepped a syringe, and injected something into the kitten's hind leg. Antivenom. I had 1 dose left in the mobile kit. We'll need more, but this might stabilize him. Is he going to make it? I wish I could tell you yes, but it's a matter of hours. Let's get him to the clinic. We rode in silence. I kept looking at the tiny chest rising and falling. At least it was still moving. At the clinic, Dr. Harris moved fast. For fluids, oxygen, more injections. He worked like a man possessed, focused and precise. I just stood there helpless. Around 1:30 in the morning, he motioned me over. He's stable for now. The next few hours are critical. You did everything right. I didn't feel like I did. I pulled a chair next to the small kennel where the kitten now lay, hooked to wires and tubes, his breathing shallow but steady. I watched every rise and fall like it was a miracle. 2 hours passed. At 3:30, his leg twitched. Then again, I leaned in. His eyes fluttered, then slowly opened. Just a crack. Hey, I whispered. You're still here. He blinked once. The vet came in, checked the monitors, then gave me a tired smile. That's a good sign. Real good. I stayed until dawn. At 6, Dr. Harris brought in a thermos of coffee. He sat down beside me. You know he might not be releasable. If the venom damaged nerves or organs, he may not survive on his own. I know. What's your plan? I looked at the little creature, sleeping beside me. I don't know, but I couldn't leave him there. I couldn't let him die alone. Dr. Harris nodded slowly. Sometimes that's the best start there is. The sun was rising through the clinic windows, and the lynx cub was still alive. The first week was a blur of silence. I brought the lynx cub home the day after Dr. Harris gave the green light. He was stable, barely. Still weak, still in pain, but alive. I set up a soft crate in the corner of my living room, padded it with fleece blankets and an old heating pad set to low. He didn't move much, except to turn his head away when I came near. He didn't hiss. He didn't growl. He just looked through me. There was no spark in his eyes, no fear, no curiosity, only exhaustion, the kind that goes beyond the body. Like something inside him had given up long before I ever found him. I named him quietly, under my breath, when no one else was around. Scout. It felt too soon to say it out loud. The first night home, I slept on the couch beside his crate. I didn't turn on the TV, didn't play music, just the ticking of the old wall clock and the occasional creak from the heater kicking on. He never made a sound. The second night, I tried feeding him with a syringe, special formula the vet gave me. He turned his head away, weakly, and let it dribble out the side of his mouth. I wiped it with a towel and tried again. Nothing. You gotta eat, I whispered. Nothing. So I sat beside him and talked. Not about anything important. I just filled the silence. Told him about my job, the porch I never finished building, the fox I saw last fall that stole my shoe. I didn't expect a reaction. I just couldn't stand the way he stared past me like I wasn't even there. By day 4, he was at least moving his limbs a little, stretching one leg, twitching his ear. I left the crate door open, just in case. But he never stepped out. On the fifth night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to a strange sound. A soft, low whine, like a meow with all the hope sucked out of it. I sat up fast, heart racing. Scout was shaking. He wasn't cold. The heating pad was warm. He wasn't seizing. He was crying. Not loud. Just this soft, broken sound from deep in his throat. His tiny shoulders quivering. His eyes were open, but he wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the wall. Past it. It broke me. I reached in slowly and placed my hand near him. Palm up, not touching. Just close. He didn't react. I stayed like that for almost 20 minutes, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. Then, with a movement so gentle I almost missed it, he shifted his paw just a few inches and touched my hand. His pads were dry and rough, his claws still retracted. But he left it there, his tiny weight resting against my skin like he was testing something. I didn't say a word. I just let the tears roll down my cheeks. From that night on, things changed in millimeters. I crushed up medicine into his food, and he started licking at it slowly, suspiciously. He'd retreat the moment I got too close, but he was watching me now. He followed my movements with his eyes. When I knelt to clean his crate, he didn't look away. When I sat on the floor beside him to eat my own dinner, he shifted his ears toward the sound of my chewing. He was coming back, but something inside him was still locked shut. I spent most nights on the floor now. I moved a sleeping bag beside the crate and left it unzipped so he could see I wasn't going anywhere. I read books out loud, played soft radio music. I even sang once, terribly, and I'm almost sure I saw his whiskers twitch. On the 9th day, I reached into the crate to change the blanket. He didn't move. When I pulled the old one out, he stepped forward and placed his paw on my wrist. Not hard, not out of fear. It was like a whisper. I'm still here. That night, he curled up beside the open crate door halfway out, his nose resting on the edge like he was debating something. I left the blanket there. Didn't touch him. Just let him be. By day 11, he crawled out and lay on the carpet under the coffee table. He watched me the whole time. Eyes wide, ears alert, tail curled tight. He still didn't trust me. But he was learning I wasn't the thing that hurt him. And maybe, just maybe, I could be the one to help him heal. It had been almost 3 weeks. Scout was stronger now. He walked on his own, slowly at first, but steadier every day. He still limped on the bitten leg, but the swelling had gone down. He explored the living room in cautious bursts, under the table, behind the chair, peeking through the window. He still didn't make noise. Never meowed, never purred. But the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It was deliberate, alert, like he was slowly taking back control of his little world. Then the storm came. It started with low thunder around sunset. I didn't think much of it. Forecast said rain, maybe some lightning. I closed the windows and pulled the curtains. Scout had curled up under the table, his favorite spot lately, nose tucked under his paw. I figured he'd sleep through it. But when the rain hit, everything changed. The wind howled through the siding like a scream. Branches scraped against the windows. Thunder cracked so hard it rattled the dishes in the sink. And Scout vanished. I called for him without thinking. Scout, hey, it's okay, buddy. Just rain. No sound. I looked under the table. Empty. Checked the crate. Empty. I pulled back blankets, cushions, even looked inside the laundry room. Nothing. Then I saw it. The tiny bit of her sticking out from behind the couch. I knelt down and peered behind it. He was jammed into the narrow gap between the wall and the back of the couch, eyes wide, body shaking. His claws were dug into the baseboard, tail tucked so far and I could barely see it. He wasn't just hiding. He was reliving something. I didn't move closer. Just lowered myself to the floor, laid on my side, and rested my head near the edge of the couch. You're safe now, I whispered. No one's gonna hurt you here. A flash of lightning lit the whole room, followed by a brutal crack of thunder. Scout flinched so hard his head smacked the wall. My throat tightened. I'd seen trauma before. Injured dogs, orphan raccoons, a fawn whose mother was hit by a car. But this was different. He wasn't afraid of the noise. He was remembering something the rest of us couldn't see. The power went out a few minutes later. Everything went black, except for the blue glow of my emergency flashlight in the corner. I lay there for what felt like an hour, just breathing, listening to the rain, to the wind, to the quiet little whimpers coming from behind the couch. And then something cracked in me, too, because I knew that look in his eyes. I'd seen it before, in the mirror. I was 9 years old when I first understood fear. My mom and I were caught in a house fire. She threw a blanket over me and shoved me out the back door while she went to get our dog. The firemen found her minutes later, unconscious but alive. But I remember the smoke, the way it pressed into my chest, the way the world turned red and flickered. I remember thinking she'd never come back. And I remember hiding in my neighbor's hallway, under a bench, rocking back and forth while everyone tried to talk to me. But I couldn't hear them. That silence in my head, it never fully left. Scout wasn't just scared of the storm. He was trapped in something he didn't have words for. And I couldn't give him words. But I could give him presence. Eventually, I reached my hand behind the couch. Just barely felt the soft touch of fur. I didn't pull, just let it rest there. He didn't move, but he stopped shaking. Maybe he could feel the storm in me, too. After a while, I started whispering, not to calm him down, not to fix anything, just to share space. I told him something I've never told anyone, not even Dr. Harris. I said, sometimes I still smell the smoke in my sleep. I still wake up reaching for her, thinking I didn't get out fast enough. My voice cracked. I didn't stop. You're not broken, Scout. You're just remembering. That's all it is. And you're not alone in it. The storm began to ease outside. The wind softened. The thunder faded to distant grumbles. Scout's breathing slowed. Then I felt it, his head, pressing gently against my fingers. We stayed like that for the rest of the night. Me on the floor, him behind the couch. 2 survivors, learning how to live again. By the 4th week, Scout was a different creature. He didn't hide anymore. He slept on the couch now, sometimes even beside me. He followed me from room to room like a quiet shadow, always just a few steps behind. When I sat at the kitchen table, he'd curl up on the floor beneath my chair. When I folded laundry, he'd bat at the socks with slow, curious swipes. And for the first time since I found him, he made a sound. It was a soft rumble one morning while I scratched behind his ears, a low, uncertain purr that caught me completely off guard. I froze, not wanting to scare away. But when I looked down, he was blinking up at me like nothing had changed. Everything had. We had a rhythm. I didn't think I'd ever want to keep a wild animal in my home. But with Scout, it didn't feel like a decision. It felt like something that had happened to both of us. And then, one morning, he was gone. I woke up late, around 9. The window in the living room was open just a crack, the way I always left it to keep air flowing. The screen had been pushed loose at the corner. I didn't panic right away. He'd hidden before. Maybe he was under the bed, behind the bookshelf, in the laundry room. But he wasn't. I searched the entire house, called his name, shook his favorite blanket, left food out. Nothing. I checked the yard, the shed, the trail behind the house. By noon, my voice was hoarse. By nightfall, I was standing in the woods with a flashlight and a pocket full of treats I knew he probably didn't care about. I searched for 5 days straight, slept in short bursts, called every local wildlife center, every neighbor, put up handwritten notes at gas stations and trailheads. A week passed. Then 2. I didn't cry until the 3rd week. I sat on the floor with his blanket in my hands, still carrying his scent, and finally let it hit me. He left. Or maybe he didn't mean to. Maybe something spooked him. Maybe he chased a bird and couldn't find his way back. Maybe he just remembered who he was. I blamed myself 100 times. For not locking the window. For keeping him inside too long. For letting him get too comfortable. And then, a month later to the day, I went back to the place I found him. The old quarry. I don't know why I went. Habit, maybe, or a need to see it one more time to make it all real. I brought the hoodie he'd first ridden home in and a bottle of water. The place looked the same. The pit still yawned wide in the earth, silent and still. I walked to the edge and sat, legs dangling, and that's when I saw it. At the bottom, on a flat rock near the wall, something glinted. I climbed down the same way I had weeks ago, careful not to disturb the fragile dirt. It was a stainless steel food dish I'd used during his first week, the one he refused to eat from unless I sat nearby. It was scratched and chewed at the edges. Next to it lay a single dry leaf, pressed flat like it had been placed there. I stared at it for a long time. Was it him? Did he bring it there? Did someone else find the dish and drop it here by chance? Why this place? I didn't have the answers. I still don't. I climbed out, holding the dish in one hand, the hoodie in the other. I sat on the grass and looked at the sky, wondering if I'd made the right choices, if keeping him had helped or hurt, if he was alive somewhere out there, thriving, or if I'd let him down. I don't know what happened to Scout. I don't know if I ever will. But I do know this. For a short, unforgettable time, he chose to trust me. And maybe that's the kind of story that doesn't need an ending. Maybe some stories just echo. I still leave the window cracked open, just a little, just in case.